Hello and welcome to TXM TV. I'm Anthony Klein and today we're joined by Rob Chittenden. Hi Rob, how are you?
Hi Anthony, I am well, and hi everybody.
Fantastic Rob, and also Peter Rui. How are you, Peter?
Very good.
Excellent, Peter. And it's another weekend. This is week 5 of TXM TV and time has gone fast and we've learnt a lot and we need to capture our learnings and the risk is that we forget everything that's just gone on in the last few weeks. Rob, what tips do you have for us?
Yeah, Anthony, because it's as we move through things, we're seeing some changes. And what can we learn from this event? So we've learned how to work remotely, and a lot of people have learnt the technology or learned how to work with Zoom and understanding how we actually schedule meetings and do that live. So I think companies and people should try and capture that knowledge because that will continue on and we're only going to get better at it. I've seen my own learnings get really good in this space. The second one is our distancing rules. Social distancing is quite a thing and will probably stay in place for a lot longer. And we've learnt visual controls there. We've seen the stickers, the lines at the supermarket, the Perspex screens. We're seeing quite a few of those visual controls and they'll be established for a while. I was only at JB Hi-Fi buying some more tech for studio work, and the snaky line, one line for many, is now individual lines. So those sorts of things are a great thing to capture and may be around. And the last point is capture how you've gone with the change management here. A lot of people have had to adapt to these changes. So how well have behaviours been affected why this COVID-19 events occurred? We've seen people adopt new skills and behaviours very, very quickly. So you, as an organisation, you've been a good learner, and so capture that learning. So as we learn the next thing that's coming, how can we take that on and be better at it? So working well together is something we should all capture down. So that's the three things. So working remotely, the social distancing rules, and what about change management like?
Fantastic.
There we go, Anthony.
That's excellent, Rob. And as it's always good to not forget this. And I can just imagine one of my biggest fears is in 5 years' time, I want to tell the story about how we changed dramatically in a short period of time with COVID-19 and tell my own personal journey through that. And I'm going to look for photos, I'm going to look for material, and unless I consciously go out and get them now, they're not going to be available. But the part of it is getting back to work. And so just as each society has an infection curve, each workplace has a disruption curve. And so workplaces in the next 2 to 10 or even more weeks are going to be going back to work. And people who have been working remotely are going to be working in offices and working together. And how do we do that? And the topic is defining workplace standards. So at TXM, it's what we do is we help workplaces define standards so that people can work together harmoniously and have confidence that they're working safely and efficiently in the workplace together. So what we're doing is we're pulling together a combination of government standards, best practice, and also our own TXM checklists. And this will provide, the government standards will provide a framework and a minimum standards for how a desk needs to be cleaned, for example, and how an office needs to be cleaned and what the distance rules are. The best practice will draw on all of our relationships and experience and networks to say, what is it businesses around the world are doing that's innovative that we can share. And from that, we'll create checklists so that the checklist can be applied both generically to your workplace, but also we're then going to look at an innovative way of assessing your workplace and teaching our clients to walk around their workplace and see risks and identify specific standards that are required for that workplace. So that's going to be the challenge, but it's quite exciting and it's going to mean a whole new way of working, and we're wanting to anchor the new behaviours we've learned, such as Rob's talked about, into the new way of working moving forward. So that's part of it, but that's not all going to happen overnight. And problems, there's going to be plenty of problems, Peter. How do we deal with those problems?
Yeah, no, really good point, Anthony. In our world, right, and when I talk our world as lean coaches, one of the key things that we try to talk to people about regularly is the difference between containing a problem and having a countermeasure. All right. And so one of the things that I think a lot of businesses are going to run into is everything's so complicated. You have to look at every part of your business. All right. Where do you start? Where's your priority? All right. And so that is something that you're going to have to kind of really start thinking about. And it's important that we actually do start prioritizing our activity, because particularly with smaller businesses, they can't be all things to all people in a very short period of time. We know the assistance is going to come from different places, whether it be the government or industry organizations. But at the same time, it's really important that businesses understand that they have to do what they can do now. All right. And that's basically the containment element. Yeah. So I'll use an example. And one of the examples would be, let's use people and safety in terms of social distancing or workplace distancing. I go to the supermarket once a week with my partner. All right, we maintain our distance, but at the same time, you'll also notice that there's one or two people that just don't understand that. All right, and so my values are my values, and that person's values are that person's values, and it's really hard to determine what those values look like. So Anthony touched on something really important. You have to start with standards. And the standards take away that subjective element that people with different standards, all right, may go, well, I'm not going to stand on that demarcated area, all right, unless there's a standard. And then when there's a standard, I will stand in that demarcated area. And so if we look at workplace distancing, the containment, all right, the containment for that right now may be something as simple as cordoned areas to prevent people from going into other people's workspaces. They could be demarcation dots, which tell people where they all need to stand when they're doing their stand-up meeting at the beginning of a shift. Yeah. Now the countermeasure element could be something a little bit more long-term. Here in New Zealand, as in Australia, people are looking at things like Bluetooth low-energy beacons, where everyone wears a little beacon and it just chirps, makes a chirp chirp sound when you come within 2 meters of another person, right? And done in such a way that you don't need to think about it. There's going to be an audible reminder, all right, just to take care that you're coming into someone's area of operation. And so that's what we wanted to touch on with my part, which was try not to think that you need the perfect solution, but make sure you have a solution that works for the people that everyone can work with. And then later on, all right, hopefully, okay, the containment will come into play. That's me. Anthony?
Yes. You might have heard the rubbish truck went past, so I had a lot of reversing beacons, but it's an important thing is that we've been able to mobilise so quickly in the last 5 weeks, and to keep that spirit and to keep that way of working to confront all future problems and all future just work scenarios, make that the new normal, and we can adjust. We can relax our own personal barriers to change. I know I've been able to change many of my personal behaviours that I thought were quite entrenched previously, but I've been able to just step back and say, hey, it's not that bad. I guess I can give it a crack. And that's what the spirit is. So on Tuesday, Peter, you're going to join us again tomorrow?
I am, and we'll probably have more conversations in this type of, within the subject. I think it's getting really important with businesses now starting to go back into work mode.
Yeah, and there'll be more detail about the standards and what cultural changes are needed. And thank you for participating, Rob and Peter, and viewers. Thanks for joining us. Remember to comment on our LinkedIn page and email us at txmtv@txm.com. I'm Anthony Klein. I hope you join us again for the next episode.